licensing reimagined.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Christian Brindle. Welcome back to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business to seven figures or above. I'm back with a amazing guest, somebody who's been on our YouTube channels previously, who's done live streams with me previously, someone who has become a great friend over the years, and someone that I've learned a ton from personally, behind closed doors in a lot of situations, like personal conversations, spending time in person at events. Someone who's a wealth of knowledge. I have the owner, the founder of Lead Concepts, Mr. Chris Weir. Chris, how are you doing today?
Christian, I'm good. But you know the answer to that. I'm always good and getting better. I don't believe in bad days.
That I say that all the time, right? Like we had somebody new start in our office, that we hired, and she was like, she made a comment. She's like, today was a good day. I'm like, every day is a good day. And she looked at me and laughed because, she thought I was joking. I'm like, I'm not joking. I'm like, every day is a good day. I picked that up from you because I heard you say that one time.
Right. I mean, obviously they're not all good days, but you ever have anybody you talk to regularly and you ask them, how's it going? And they actually tell you how crappy everything is. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, you learn not to start with that, because some people, that's the first thing they say as a reflex. Oh,
Yeah.
how are you doing? Well, eventually you learn, okay, when I'm talking to this particular person, I'm not going to say, how are you doing? Because
Yeah.
it's usually negative and it's consistently not a great answer. So
Yes, agreed. I mean, it makes everybody uncomfortable if someone goes off about how horrible their day is going. That's for sure. And
sure, it's okay. You can have those days once in a while in real life. I
yeah,
don't, but I mean, we've all had tough times. I know in 33 years of running Lead Concepts, there's some massive swings, massive negative swings, and
yeah.
but you just don't wear it on your sleeve if I mean, maybe I'm lucky to be able to do that.
There's so much I want to get into with you. I wanted to start with, on the off chance that there's somebody watching that isn't familiar with you or Lead Concepts. Can you take us back to the beginning? Take us back to the beginning of when the days that you started Lead Concepts. How did it all transpire, and what gave you the idea to kind of form and create the company?
I'll try and do this in as few words as possible, because I always believe that I write content, right, for mailers,
Yeah.
and fewer words the better. So I'm gonna try that. I for some reason at a young age knew I would be successful, whatever that meant. I don't know if I knew what that meant, right? I knew that I would make a lot of money, again, whatever that means. But for some reason, I always kind of knew that, and I don't know why. And when I was trying to decide what it was I wanted to do for a living after college, I did college for 4 years. I just knew that I wanted to do something that was limitless in terms of income. And I started looking for a job outside of college, and a buddy called me and said, hey, I need a roommate because I'm coming to town, Dallas. So at that point, I just needed to get a job and start earning money. And ironically, it was doing exactly this. I answered an ad for telesales, and I started taking phone calls from insurance agents. But a year later, that company folded. They were mailing mailers that were not truthful or accurate. We, as team members in that company, we didn't know that. So
Yeah.
one day when I went to work and that company was gone, Lead Concepts was born. And that was 33 years ago. Three of us started Lead Concepts together. One left. One I bought out 24 years ago. He's still with me. And so I became the sole owner of Lead Concepts in the year 2000.
Okay. So,
And I knew that, Christian, because I knew I wanted to buy my first building. I knew I want, in order to take that next level of wealth creation, I wanted to buy, we'd been leasing for 10 years, and it was time I wanted to buy my first building, which I've purchased three now, and each one that I buy is is financially soul crushing to get into the building and make the down payment. But each one, has proven worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I've heard and I've seen pictures and video of the Lead Concepts building, and I had an opportunity a few years ago in town for an event, when we were, spending some time together on our way to the event in the car to stop by and check out the building, and I wasn't able to do that, and that's a regret of mine. And so, it's on my
I
to-do
picked you up
list.
from the airport and drove you right past the office out to the, yeah.
It's a regret of mine, because I knew some other people that went and did the tour, at that event. And they were like, it was phenomenal. And it's on my bucket list to get out there and be able to kind of check it out. Because I've, just from the pictures and the video I have seen it, it looks like an unbelievable operation and everything you guys are doing.
In fairness, it's a brief tour, in fairness, but to get to walk through the shop and touch and feel all the printing and all the mailers and all the other things that are happening, you get to see all the various Medicare mailers that are going on, the branding mailers that we do. You see the mortgage protection stuff. We order that the same morning. We buy data in the morning, and we print, fold, stuff envelopes, put a stamp on those things in the same day and deliver it to the post office first class for the mortgage protection letters, where you'll see our final expense, the branding stuff we do for Aetna, for United Healthcare, for Humana. And after 33 years, the space that we play in, of course, we talk to individual agents all the time.
Yeah.
But the space we play in is Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare. Aetna at the home office level does a fair amount of work with us in partnership with the Oak Street people. Just wonderful, wonderful people. And of course, in the Cigna world, we've got their online bonus program. So if you sell 4 Cigna Medicare supplements underwritten, have to be supplements underwritten. You sell 4 of them, you receive a link to a free 1,000 piece order. That link is coming to us. So we may get anywhere from 40 to 60 orders a month on the Cigna bonus program, which it's a phenomenal. But for 33 years working with agents, eventually regional directors, before IMO, FMO became the thing. Now it's fantastic to consider that, that we're really playing above the FMO level now at the carrier level.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to when Lead Concepts starts, how old are you at this point?
How rude.
Not today, but when you started Lead Concepts, how old were you at
the day I started it? I would have been 24, I believe.
24.
I would have been 20. Well, I guess I was 23. I am 56 now. It's been 33 years. So I guess I was 23.
So one thing
October
that
of 91. I just turned 24. Yeah, I just turned 24.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I knew everything about the world. At 24, I knew everything I needed to know about the world.
One thing that I think of often, right, when I think about you is a few years ago, you were doing your tour of the world, or the country, I should say, right? And visiting.
Right.
Visiting.
I drove to 33 states in 1 year, yeah.
In the Lead Concepts mobile, right? And
yeah.
You were gracious enough to stop by and spend some time here at our offices with me. We were quite a bit smaller staff-wise then than we are now, and we spent a lot of time. We spent that day together, and we went over some really helpful business strategy together. And there were some things that I learned from you that day that have helped me a lot over the past 2 or 3 years. Talking about growing, hiring. We talked about books, which all of which I have now and have read. And one thing I learned about you is, you have I think a lot of people think about Chris Weir, and I think they think, lead expert, for someone that is, a master at generating multiple different types of leads, direct mail, social media. But what I really learned about you at that point was you have an excellent mind for business strategy and business growth. Where did that come from? Was that just over 33 years of building your business?
what made me great at business, right, was just that I kept trying things. I kept paying attention, and I never really took a day off. And really in those first 25 years, I wasn't very good at running my business. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And it, it was the book Rocket Fuel that provided clarity for me. Rocket Fuel. When I read it, it talks about every person in your organization, the right person in the right seat based on their talents. And my talents lie in other places besides running a business. And even though I'm responsible for running the business, I realized at that point that the reason we couldn't grow as a company is that I was kind of standing in the way as a salesperson that struggles in the details. In order for the business to grow, I needed to bring people in that could see my vision, but then put the details in place, and so that I'm walking down a path, building a foundation, so that if there's a product we want to sell, whether we want to build out our seminar campaigns, which we're doing seminar mailers for all sorts of products. We're doing seminar mailers for Medicare, for T65, but also for all of Medicare. We're doing the educational stuff, the sales stuff. We're doing financial planning and annuities, pre-need seminars. We've got some pain management clinics that are using us to bring people into their events. So when I used to say I want to do seminars, I would skip ahead, but it wouldn't put the foundational pieces in place to make sure we had a well-rounded product. And so I would run before walking, and then the product I wanted to build and sell more of would never work. So same thing with the Facebook products that we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. We slow down and we build the foundation around it. And that's what took us, from a $10 million company after 25 years to now a $22 million company, and headed on to $30 or $40 million is looking at the foundational pieces of what should I be doing to help the company grow, and what should I certainly not be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I remember, having this conversation with you about that. Well, that was one of the topics in particular. And that was a big help for me, right? Because at that point in time, I was wearing 15 hats, for my business and for my company. And I'm not saying I don't wear multiple hats still, but I might have gone from 15 down to like 3 or 4 or 5, So, what are some other books that have been a huge impact in your own life, your business, everything like that? I know you're a huge admirer of books, and as am I, right? Most of the books that you've suggested for me are back on this bookshelf behind me. What are some other books that you really have read over the years that had a big impact?
Well, I think the biggest one was the Phil Knight book, Shoe Dog, was impressed upon me at that time. He never did a deal that he didn't do in person.
Hmm.
And that really changed everything for me, because back when he was doing those deals, he would have to get on a plane and fly to Japan to do a deal with the shoe company, or go sit down with the bank to be able to create the financing he needed to buy all the shoes that he was going to sell. So it was, that really changed things for me. Rocket Fuel certainly was the precursor to the Traction book on exactly how to run the business. The Traction book creates the exact flow and cadence, the cadence of how business gets done. So it was Rocket Fuel, then Traction. I don't. How do you get past, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? How do you get past, Tony Robbins, Mastering the Art of Money? It's just, for me, direct mail and lead generation has been a conduit to true wealth, but it was through my real estate acquisitions, through purchasing, watching closely and carefully at the stock market, and finding the Tesla stock twice for massive long-term gains that I've now put into my next piece of property, a 93,000 square foot, 17 tenant building not too far from here. So insurance, Medicare, whatever it is that you're doing, whoever's listening to this podcast, right? It's generating income, and then it's what are you doing with those dollars?
Right.
Because it's reinvesting it in wealth creation. I think to some degree, I might have been better to reinvest additional dollars in lead concepts and maybe acquisition versus going with real estate. But spilt milk at this point, that building is generating massive income. I just don't have the pool of money if I wanted to acquire a company. So I could look to sell the building in 2 or 3 years when rates come back down, and then use those dollars to reinvest in purchasing some other company or operation. But you're creating a pool of money, and that's what you're doing. That in terms of wealth creation versus spending it on stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, you mentioned three kind of things somebody could reinvest their extra dollars in, right? They could invest it back into their business, they could invest in real estate, they could invest in stocks. Is in your mind, was one of those better than the other two for someone to start out? Or is there like trajectory somebody needs to get to before they start investing into stocks, or maybe they start investing into real estate? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
In a perfect world, which you're building towards something, right? You don't start with all of it, but in a perfect world, you've got your business generating income, you've got a building, a real estate that may be where you're operating from. Ideally, it's the building you're in.
Yeah.
You got real estate that's growing in value and maybe paying you income. Then you've got some sort of a stock portfolio. I mean, I started with a whole life insurance policy when I was 24 years old. So I've been paying into that for 30 plus years, cash accumulation, whole life insurance policy. So I have all pieces of the stool, as they say, but there's no way of knowing which one is going to be better. Some people do not believe in the stock market at all, and I don't blame them. And some people don't want to be involved in real estate and all of that, that it brings. But I have I've got a property manager, and then I've got a realtor that keeps it full, and they collaborate, and so I pay them a lot of money, of my proceeds to do that, but it's because my function is not to be showing spaces. I'm in the lead generation space. We're creating products and relationships, and I've got to be in. I just got back from Kansas City. I've got to be back there in a few weeks. I'm going to be in Florida and Vegas, as you know, a couple of times, and Salt Lake City before that, and Cleveland. So Lead Concepts, is where we are. We're excited. We're going to be bringing an announcement as our partnership with registered Social Security analysts. They seem to be everywhere now, and I've seen their product. I love their product, and the thing missing from their product is, guess what? Lead generation, which so we've rounded out the product of the registered Social Security analyst now with lead generation that supports that function.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think really is impossible because hindsight's always 2020, right? You never know exactly what's going to pay off probably the most. But I do think there's so much wisdom in that because there's so many people that buy things, like you said, they'll buy toys, things that, as Rich Dad Poor Dad's definition, right, would be liabilities, not assets, right? The whole concept of Rich Dad Poor Dad was invest in assets, not liabilities. And too many people buy liabilities and they don't buy assets. So it probably doesn't matter too much what the asset is as long as you're buying assets. Is that kind of what you would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, right. If you're buying things that will appreciate in value, Rich Dad Poor Dad takes it to a whole new level because he actually says buying your own home is not a good investment
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's not paying you income. In fact, it's sucking all the money out of your checking account constantly for repairs and maintenance and upkeep and boy, I mean, I could hardly argue with that. The amount of money that goes to that. I'm not sure myself, what that option is because I'm not, you know, I mean, I love my home and we've always had wonderful homes and memories. So you don't have to take everything at face value, but for
Yeah.
certain, um, he had indicated that a home was not a great investment. But like anything else, I suppose it depends on where you are and when you buy it versus when you sell it. And I've been lucky in that regard as well, that when it was time to sell my home, um, it didn't appreciate for about 10 years. It actually depreciated for many, many years. And then when it became time to sell it and build the next thing, um, just luck of the timing, right? The values started climbing dramatically. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it does make sense that it can be very situational, in that regard. A question that I wanted to ask you that I've always been very curious about with you. You are one of the best I've ever met at building relationships. You mentioned building relationships a second ago. You are, a black belt at that. What have you learned over the years about developing and cultivating strong relationships with people? Is there a key to that, or is it more just as simple as taking interest in other people?
yeah, I mean, there's techniques for sure, but for me, it just comes naturally because I love everybody. It's like I mentioned, I'm not good at running my business in the details because I hire everybody. I never fire anybody. I don't vet people because I assume the best in everyone. So some of what you're talking about is natural,
Yeah.
but you do learn, as well. When you're on the phone with somebody, as a young person, I made sure to connect with my customers over the phone by finding a common ground. And it was really simple for me when I was talking to an insurance agent. And oftentimes, as a 24, 25-year-old, I didn't want the person I was talking to know how young I was. So I didn't divulge my age. I didn't sound like somebody that young.
I did the same thing too, because I started selling at 21. So I know
Yeah,
exactly what you mean.
right. But when I would relate to them that I was on commission just as they were, it immediately put me on a level ground, right? So it wasn't like I had to figure out if they had a dog or a kid or if we liked the same movie or something like that. That would be almost fake. Once I imparted to them this commonality that I'm on commission just like you, then it put us on the same ground, right? And all of a sudden they were worried about my well-being as well. So, you know, I learned if I was talking to somebody from the Northeast that I needed to make my sentences shorter and faster. If I was talking to somebody in Georgia or the Carolinas, I needed to slow down.
Yeah.
Well, they call
Yeah.
that mirroring.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there are techniques to it, but what you're talking about with me, um, it's I don't know how duplicatable it is because I've never met anybody that I didn't want to talk to and find out what their deal was, how how they came about. Everyone's favorite subject is the same, right?
Yep. That's right. Themselves.
Ask questions,
Yeah.
and people talking about their favorite subject is themselves, their kids, their life, their stuff. I mean, and everybody has a story, as I've often said on stage, right? Everybody has a story. People who have done things that are phenomenal, or you'd just be shocked to find out that they did it. they won't tell you because they think it's common or boring because they did it.
Yeah.
I still do it, Christian. I get on stage and I just did it last week. I get on stage and I tell everyone in the room, whether it's 100 people or 200 people, I tell them, you are in a unique situation. You are in the same room as me. And there's always somebody in the front row that rolls their eyes, but the truth is that I've spent 33 years getting really, really good at what I do. And
Yeah.
if you're an agent, if you're a broker, you should get to know me because I'm not chasing your money. I'm chasing your success.
Yeah.
And if you're not mailing to your own customers at the very, very least, then that's something that I need to be doing for you. Because if you're not mailing something to your customers a couple of times a year, I am. I'm mailing your customers right now. So don't let me do that without mailing for you, some form of a recipe card or a newsletter. And we do a lot of that. People think we need to mail gigantic mailings, but we don't. We mail 150-piece mailers for people, and unless if that's how many clients you have, let's keep your clients.
Yeah.
So, when I say you're lucky to be in the same room as me, I want when you as an agent walk into a room full of seniors to feel the same way. You've done the work. You've done the training. You've learned the products. If you've got somebody in there that's a veteran, you understand the ins and outs of the products that make sense for them. Cigna, Aetna, they have products that are designed for veterans, and you've done that work. So if you're in that room, I want you to feel like I know what I'm talking about, and it would be in their best interest to stop and listen, because I'm not here to sell them something. I'm here to save them money, to make sure they're getting all the benefits that are available to me. I go to the events, I take the training, and I've got the right to say, these folks are lucky that I'm in the room with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, you kind of saved the day famously, right, at our first conference, when you
Oh,
last second stepped in and took the stage. And, I remember you gave that same talk. You gave that talk, and it was I remember it very vividly. I remember it, and it left a very good impression. One thing I've learned about you, Chris, is you are very on, you're so good, I think, probably just naturally at being creating situations that people don't forget easily. Whether it be like showing up in a disguise to an event or creating some kind of situation, right? Like I remember at our event, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was like you were pretending the doors were locked outside in the hallway.
I was the first speaker, so I shook the door as though I was locked out. Yeah, I forgot it. Yeah, yeah.
Like I could not, it was my event, and I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I probably don't remember 75% of what people said from the stage at my own event, right? It was 3 years ago now. I remember that, and I think a lot of it is finding ways to, what have people remember you. And I think you are so good at that. You're probably just naturally, instinctively good at that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm in marketing, right? And I'm good at lead generation, but when I travel, I don't go there so people won't remember me, right?
Yeah.
And my wife will say, "Why do you do these crazy things?" And I say, "Well, I didn't fly there, spend the money, spend the time, away from my wife, and go there to be not be seen." And so um, it's really awesome when I walk into a hotel room and I'm rolling my bag in there. And Christian, I have heard people whispering in the background and say, "Oh, that's Chris Weir." And it's like, really? That's where we've come to? But it's a cool feeling, and I immediately go over and say hello and and shake hands, because I don't want that facade to actually exist. But I only exist for the success of everyone around me, whether it's my kids or the 48 people that work at Lead Concepts, or wherever, I can be, where I spill out into society. I only want success for everyone that I bump into. I've had it, and I hope to give it to other people. And so when I speak, that's what I speak to. And since typically I have to pay to speak, well, since I paid, I can say whatever I want to say, because you made me pay to speak. So I want to say what I want to say. And I don't want to say mail this, not that. I want to talk about, I believe that if you can work, you should work. And you should be working faster than you are right now, because believe it or not, there will come a day when you can't work.
Right.
And it might come sooner than you think. Isn't that unfortunate to think about, Christian, if you have an accident? I mean, who knows? I sound like an agent now. I'm running you over with a bus. Agents like to kill you, but but I just point out, right, that I've had AFib, and I've had to have I had to fix my heart flutter. I've had 2 melanoma diagnosis, and so far so good, right? I'm okay. But if you can work today, you should be working.
Yeah.
And you should be working towards overall wealth and wealth generation, whatever that means, versus just selling more. And you should be working at being even better at your craft to advise seniors on how Social Security works. What about a reverse mortgage if you see somebody who's really struggling to make a living? Could you have knowledge about how a reverse mortgage works for people who are over 62 years old and own at least 50% equity in their home, that they could reverse their mortgage and have no mortgage? Always be learning about what it is that these people that you're sitting in front of can rely on you to give them the information that they need for an extra meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
It's a big responsibility that you guys have. We think we're selling insurance, but it's so much more than that. You have a responsibility. I know when you walk into a room and people sigh and there's the insurance guy, but you just fight through that, because I know we talk about helping people and all of that stuff, but along the way you find people that legitimately they don't know that there's food cards. They just don't know the benefits that are out there, and keep showing up. I was talking to an 80-year-old friend of my parents, and he's a veteran. He's on a Medicare supplement. He's paying $320 or $330 a month for that. He's got his Part B deduction, but he gets all his prescriptions from the VA. And I encouraged him to reach out to his agent and have a review to make sure that if he's spending $5,000 a month on his Medicare coverage in total between Part B and his payment, that he really has the right. And he told me the other day that he took a WellCare, some sort of a WellCare, he said prescription. I don't speak the language enough, but he seemed to be very, very pleased with the outcome of getting a review.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is so much more than, but as I say, if you can work, you should work, and you need to be working faster than you are, because the day will come when you can't work. And Amen. It might be right around the corner. We don't know.
Well said. Well said. And it's very true. It's very true. There's 2 last questions I wanted to get in and kind of ask you. And the first one of the 2 is, you are someone that I've learned a lot from, about work-life balance, right? Like, for me, throughout my 20s, I'm 31 now. Throughout my 20s, basically as an agent and agency owner and building my company, I was always part of that, for lack of a better term. I don't like the term, but I can't think of a better term. I was part of that like hustle culture. I got to work, and then work some more. And at times maybe I'm not around my family as much as I should be, right? And one thing I learned from you is, I remember there was a quote that I remember you saying, I can't remember if we were on the phone or what, but and tell me if I get it right. You said something on the lines of, when you were growing your business, you would be at work and feel guilty that you weren't at home, and be at home and feel guilty that you weren't at work. And that left such an impression on me, as a father of a young child. you know, um, I've kind of catered my life around trying to be able to do, to have that balance. Like I bought a house that's 2 minutes from my office, so I cut out commute times, and I'm trying to make sure that I can be there in the evening and play with my daughter, and I can be in the morning when she goes to school, and I can help her get ready for school, but I still get everything done at work. And I've learned a lot of that from you. Talk a little bit about how important that is, because I think sometimes people just don't realize it until it might be too late.
It's difficult. People, I see social media posts, that say life's too short, don't work too much. And I understand that, but at 56, I'm working more than ever as I get, closer to the end, so to speak. I feel like I've got a lot left in me, but still, I mean, clearly 56 is not 36, but the ability to compartmentalize, because if you can only be with your family so much, well, be there, right?
Yeah.
But I would be there and feel like I should be working, and then if I was at work, I felt like so I was doing nobody any good, right? I was just guilty all the time. And if you can reverse that and say, I'm working and I'm going to be focused on this and do the best I can, and then leave it behind when you go home. And when you're with your wife and your kids, we already talked about this. What's their favorite subject?
Themselves.
So, yes, what's going on? And so if you live in their space during that time, they know you love them and they know they're there. And I still practice this. If work gets crazy and I need to get more time at work, I communicate to my wonderful wife, Kim, and I ask permission to be a little bit more focused on work for the next month or two or whatever, if there's some problem going on that I need to address. I don't go off into a dark shell and not communicate it. I communicate what's happening and I ask permission. And of course, she's, it's just that communication that makes all the difference in the world. And she understands why I need to do it. And, and of course, she sends me off to save the world and do what I need to do for the company to make it from 33 years to 40 to 50 years.
This video is sponsored by none other than Hire Heroes, you guys. Hire Heroes should be at the top of your list when considering your virtual assistant needs. Let's face it, today, hiring employees and hiring staff for your business is harder than ever and more expensive than it's ever been before. And when you're a new up-and-coming business in particular, or even if you're an established business, sometimes the squeeze of the financials of hiring somebody stateside can be incredibly challenging. What Hire Heroes brings to you is an ability to tap into their best of the best team members that you can plug into your business at very affordable prices. One thing about finding and hiring VAs completely on your own is it can get a little sketchy because you don't always know who you're getting and who's working for you. The great thing also about Hire Heroes is they've gone through and done the work for you of vetting the people that you're going to be working with, and the people that you are assigned are only the best of the best and the shining examples of excellence within the company. So you know you're getting top tier talent and you don't have to go through any of the time or headache of vetting people and trying out multiple people to get there. There's a link down in the description so you guys can learn more about Hire Heroes and getting help for your business today. Yeah.
My brother always had a funny saying. He used to say, to his wife that he was maliciously supporting the family by being at work too much. Maliciously supporting the family.
I love that word.
And but you're off supporting the family, yes, and this is male and female. This is certainly not male centric, because there's plenty of women out there that are killing it, doing fantastic stuff and supporting the family. And while you're going through that process, hopefully you're doing the same thing. You're saying, when I'm at home, it's all about my man, my husband, my kids, my life at home. But when I'm at work, I'm going to focus on that. So you're not feeling guilty in both places. And work-life balance comes in waves. You can have more. Right now, I can spend more time at home being engaged, but in a few months, there could be some come up and I have to, the balance shifts from, I got to work more to, there's a problem at home that really needs my attention. And so now I really need to focus on home. And in this case, I can communicate that to the people in the office and ask permission to be more focused at home and say, I need to work a little bit less this next couple of months, and I'm needed at home for whatever reason. Communication.
Yeah.
Just don't do it secretly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very powerful. I want to be respectful of your time, but I have one last question I wanted to ask you, and that is, I know Lead Concepts is mostly known, as doing direct mail marketing, and you mentioned mail quite quite a few times over this interview, but you guys are also doing digital marketing in a very, very high level now, and from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it's become quite a big part of kind of what Lead Concepts does now. Talk about that. Like, how can people learn more about that? What kind of services can Lead Concepts do to help an agency grow?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I've been doing direct mail for 33 years, and we'll do 35 million mailers this year. That's what we did last year. I believe we'll do the same this year. Our product lines have changed over the years. We do a tremendous amount of direct mail for branding mailers, branding your agency, branding you to the 64-year-old, full color newsletters. The lead generation continues to work well in the 64, and the seminar markets are just killing it through mail and Facebook. But when we talk about digital marketing, I want to be careful because I tend to call it Facebook marketing because I don't want to misrepresent it. We're using Facebook and Instagram as a mailbox rather than the mailbox. And when we talk about digital leads, that can imply websites and form fills and that sort of thing. And I'm not doing that. We would love to be doing that. We just haven't found that to be cost effective and make sense. But in the Facebook area, different people respond on social media than are doing it with direct mail. So we're doing direct mail and linking it at times with Facebook very successfully. So for Facebook, we're generating leads for Medicare 64 all the way up. We're doing the Medicare seminars on Facebook in conjunction with mail very, very successfully. We're excited to have a dental lead, which we've never been able to do successfully in direct mail. ACA, phenomenal to be able to be back in the ACA market. Our final expense lead in direct mail, final expense works exceptionally well with the Walmart gift card, not as well without it. On Facebook, we're doing the final expense leads. Of course, no Walmart gift card doing that. And we're seeing fantastic cost per lead using that. And when we talk digital at Lead Concepts, we talk Facebook leads, they're always exclusive to one human.
Yeah.
Direct mail, Facebook, whatever it is, however we're generating a lead for you, it's never resold. People will say, well, how many am I going to sell? Well, I don't know how many you're going to sell. I just know how many we're going to be able to get you. And you may sell a couple now, and then you'll sell a couple later, but they're all going to be in your CRM, and you're going to keep touching up on them, calling them, emailing them, whatever it is. So you're going to sell some now and some later. In the Medicare space, if you've got a 5-star plan, you may be selling a couple now, but you're going to keep them and accrue them and gather them, and then you'll find that you may find some more in October.
Yeah.
But they're there and they're never resold. They're always there. So Facebook, we're excited when somebody says, which way should I go? It really kind of totally depends on you. The Facebook lead's got to be worked instantly.
Yeah.
That's why we only run it during the week. We don't run it on the weekends. And for 33 years, people have said to me in direct mail, hey, what if I just want 10 or 15 leads a week? What if I just want 25 leads every week? Well, I can't do that in direct mail, but we are successfully doing that in Facebook. And so direct mail takes me 30 days to get a lead for you. Facebook, we've got leads in 3 or 4 days, and we're just generating 2, 3, or 4 leads every day for you. And it's exciting to be able to do that after all these years, to say, yep, I can get you 15 leads a week.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Thank you for doing this, Chris. I could talk to you for another 2 hours and we'd still have things to talk about, but
well, that's because you're talking about my favorite subject.
Yes. We will leave a link, guys, in the description of this video. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, to the Lead Concepts website, go on, check out all of the different services that they can provide in terms of helping grow your business. Like Chris said, there's so many different things they can do to help, whether it be mail, Facebook ads, anything like that.
You can get on the website, sign up for the newsletter too, sign up to get our emails, because if you want to see all the latest in lead gen, what's working, highest response rate stuff, then you can jump on there and sign up to get your updates.
Yes. Yes. And if you're not watching the video version, maybe you're listening on one of the audio platforms, that should also be in the description as well on any platform that you're listening on. Chris, thank you for doing this. This was so much fun. We'll have to do another one sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would love it. I'll do that one as Lucky Lavender.
We have to.
He got a lot of play. He's famous.
You're Lucky Lavender. Like, I heard that name more than any other name from last year's event. Like Lucky Lavender.
Well, we'll have to talk about him on the next show.
Yes. Guys, if you like this episode, the only way I'm going to know about it is like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and we'll be back with you next time with another episode of the Seven Figures or Buzz podcast. Thanks, everybody.